In the Alert Center, I'm Rob Krieger. Parents of students at Leo Kerner Junior Elementary say their commute to school was nearly impossible because of a marsh fire burning nearby. Take a look at these images that we have here, shared with us by a parent at the school who says many of the parents were wondering why the school was open with conditions like these outside of the school. You could see it's just almost impossible to see out the window because of all of that smoke from the nearby marsh fire. The St. Pius Catholic Church in Lafitte shared this image on Facebook. It shows the smoke in the sky last night. Yesterday, we also received information from people in the area who say the smoke is causing them some trouble breathing. Of course, as we get more information on this marsh fire and how it's impacting the area of Lafitte there, we'll share it with you here. That's the latest from the Alert Center. Kelsey, back to you.
Thank you so much.